You're listening to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem, your bi-weekly dose of true crime history in a small rural community of Wisconsin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fox City's Murder and Mayhem podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Gavin.
Gavin, we are back again.
We are.
Where are we headed off to on our journey today?
Well, I don't know. Do you want me to read people? We're working on putting together some bylaws for an organization. You want me to read off the bylaws?
What?
No, I'm not going to read. People
what is he talking about?
People don't need to hear our bylaws we're working on.
We're working on bylaws?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. This is not involved with me at all.
No, you don't want any part of it. You really don't. I find myself being involved in all kinds of things that I don't want to be involved in, and yet I am.
Gavin recently became the head of it. What is it? The head of the board of a museum?
I'm the chairman of the board, yes.
And it's a lot of work, right?
It can be. It can be because there's a lot of things that we were not in compliance with. So, yeah.
All right. So what are we talking about?
So we're on the second half of our Asylum talk.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yes.
God, that seems like a long time ago since we recorded that, but I guess it's probably just a week.
Yeah.
The previous, last week we didn't do one of these, so.
So listeners probably listened to the first half, but just to get you up to speed, the Outagamie County Asylum opened around 1889, 1890. The first head of the asylum was George Downer. Things were going fine, I guess. I mean, bad things were happening, but that's not unusual in an asylum. Later, it comes out that he authorized people being castrated, which was illegal at the time. He is pushed out, and he commits suicide by jumping off the Law Street Bridge in Appleton.
And I think it's important to point out that though he did say he did authorize people to be castrated, it was illegal in Wisconsin, but it was a very common practice, correct, in other asylums throughout the country. This was something they did.
Don't know what the laws were state by state, but it wasn't an unusual thing.
Yes.
I don't know how common it was, but it wasn't like they invented it. They were like, let's just start castrating people. Yeah. So with Downer out, he is now replaced by a man named Thomas Flanagan. Thomas Flanagan starts officially on January 1st, 1915. He has to reapply to the board every year, which is just a formality, but, he gets reaccepted. He's going to be there for 30 years, so...
Holy cow.
A lot of years of being like, hey, I still want to be in charge, and they're like, yep, you're still in charge. So he does that. His wife, Anna, comes along and is what's called the matron of the asylum. She supervises meal preparation, laundry, and that sort of thing. That was sort of how that worked at the time, is whoever the superintendent was, their wife kind of got additional duties. Jails used to be run the same way. Sheriffs used to oversee the jail, and the sheriff's wife would have to cook meals for the inmates of the jail.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, it's weird, but in that time, I guess it made sense because that's.
And it's only weird.
A wife's job, I guess, was to assist whatever her husband's career was. So, I mean...
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's really not weird. It's just weird because we don't do it anymore today.
It's kind of weird, though, because it's... The reason I think it's weird isn't because of the whole way that husbands and wives were then compared to now. The reason I think it's weird is because the wife is assigned a job that she did not apply for.
I suppose.
Like, hey, you're going to be, now you've got like 100 people, you've got to like make sure they get fed and their laundry's done. And she's like, I didn't sign up for this,
It actually sounds like she has a worse job than her husband does, and her husband's the one that's getting paid.
Right, exactly. So, All right, so they're in there. They do get a little help. They have 5 employees, and some of the patients do work too if they're in there, but they're not that kind of, mentally deficient that they're completely reliant on the asylum. They kick in help as well. When Flanagan took over in 1915, the population there was sitting at around 111 people. The big part of how things ran was there was also a farm. When he came on board, the acreage of the farm was approximately 420 acres. Of those 420 acres, 368 could be used for planting. So, significant amount. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know exactly how big acres are. I have a rough idea based on, how big land lots are. But 368 acres of a field sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm. There's also a large inventory of animals. And for the most part, the asylum was self-sustaining. There was payment coming in both from the county and the state, but for most of it, they could kind of take care of themselves. The food that went to everybody living there was grown right there on the farm. So
they ate well, at least, right?
They ate well. The asylum worked really closely with the county extension of the University of Wisconsin to conduct farming experiments. This started at least as early as 1916 and at least as late as 1932. I'm guessing it happened before that and after that, but these were the years that I found reports for. Mm-hmm. They would test new crops to kind of see how well they would grow in Wisconsin. Alfalfa was a big one they were trying at the time. They would do different hybrids to see how they could blend different seeds and whatever together to make new strains of a certain plant. And they tried different mixtures of fertilizer. There was one year where they had different parts of the farm field set up with different percentages of, nitrogen and whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about with farming, but they're trying these different things. So it's interesting that what is going on here at the asylum was probably benefiting farmers throughout the state in an indirect way, because the county extension was conducting experiments and learning new things. And I don't know if people know this, but the county extension office works very closely with farmers on how to get things done. So, so when they can learn new things, farmers out in the community can learn new things as well, and it will improve yields and things like that. So, fantastic. As early as 1917, there's already expansion going on. A $20,000 expansion was done to put in 2 wings of dormitories that would be able to have 72 additional patients. Work was completed within a few months, so that was in there. Thomas Flanagan, apparently well respected. He was elected secretary of the Wisconsin Association of Trustees, Superintendents, and Matrons of County Asylums. And then later he was elected president of that organization. So as far as the statewide people who work in asylums go, they looked up to him. Mm-hmm. The problems sort of started creeping in with the way that the population was altering. In 1922, the patient population had increased 40% since 1915 to 176 people. But at the same time, they had 3 fewer employees than they did before.
Okay.
The institution was in good shape, but the superintendent was overworked, and they were kind of low on female attendance, which was a problem. And they don't get into specifically why it's a problem, but, if half of your inmate population is female and it's almost all male employees, there's any number of reasons that's not a good idea.
Right.
So continues to expand. 40 more acres were added to the property in 1926. More land was added in 1931, bringing acres up to 504. So this continues on.
What do they need? Is this just to expand the farm itself?
Mostly the farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, what do they need acreage for?
Mostly the farm. And I will say what's interesting to me, what really jumped out, the difference between the Downer years and the Flanagan years. I don't think this is a difference between Downer and Flanagan. I think this is a difference in how the newspaper covered things.
Okay.
Because during the Downer years, they were consistently articles about patients wandering off. There were reports of patients dying. Mm-hmm. There were all this and that. And during the Flanagan years, there was very little coverage of the asylum at all. And I don't think that's because that changed. I mean, I know from just the fact that there's the asylum cemetery, people didn't stop dying in the asylum. Like they continued to die there at pretty much the same pace, but it wasn't making the news the way it used to. And I don't know if this is like the asylum just wasn't interesting to the people at the newspapers anymore, or if we had reached the point now where we tried to be more private about how we reported these things. Because there were definitely things in the early years they reported that would never make the paper now for like medical privacy reasons. So I don't know what the exact reason is, but all the really random juicy bits that came out in those first 10, 15, 20 years kind of stop appearing in the paper. One exception was in February 1933 when one of the inmates escaped and was killed by a truck. We actually covered this in an episode of this podcast.
We did.
This guy's name was Cleveland Schuyler. People want to look that episode up. We did a whole episode on Cleveland Schuyler.
I do not remember this episode at all.
It's quite some time ago, but we did do one. April 1933, Thomas Flanagan spoke to the Kaukauna Rotary Club. He had strong ties to Kaukauna. He had grown up in the outskirts. His brother was a very prominent doctor in Kaukauna. He said at this point in 1933, the asylum was up to 184 patients, 91 men, 93 women, so pretty even split. Meals cost 21 cents, and patients were cared for at a cost of $4.80 per week. County paid for half and state paid for half. The cost of caring for the inmates per week would actually go down in the future, which maybe that's normal, but it strikes me as
that strikes
odd.
me as very odd.
Yeah. So at this point, it's $4.80 each week that it costs the county and state to care for the people. And that will go down.
I'm curious. You mentioned about how you've mentioned during this Flanagan's era that multiple expansions and the growth of the patients.
Yes,
that are in
that is definitely the running theme during his years. Yes.
Does it ever mention anything about like why was there such prominent growth? Was it just that they were bringing on clients from like other counties that didn't have an asylum?
I don't think so.
Or were we just being that much stricter, like people that we wouldn't diagnose as needing to be in an asylum are now being diagnosed?
It's a great question. I don't know the exact answer to that. I'd have to have more statistics of why they were there, which I don't have. I don't know. I don't think it's because of other counties.
Okay.
Because if anything, that should be less of a problem because more counties would have been opening up their own asylums as time went on. So that should be going in reverse. It could be the way that we understood mental illness. It could be the things you could get put in the asylum for. This is something like, I don't know that we talked about this on the air, but I've talked to other people about this. When Outagamie County Historical Society had an asylum museum exhibit a few years ago called Out of the Shadows. They had some reports that they posted, and they sanitized them so there were no names or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But there were periods of time, and I don't know if this is that time, but there were periods of time where husbands could put their wives into the asylum, like, for basically nothing. For
really?
basically
oh, my
nothing.
God.
Like, I specifically recall there being one where a wife was put in the asylum because she was thought to be mentally unwell because she refused to do household chores.
Okay, I think you've told me this one before.
Yeah.
I mentioned it.
Yeah,
So-
and like that really jumped out at me because there was nothing on the report at all indicating that she had anything wrong with her. It wasn't like she wasn't doing things because she was depressed. At least that's not what it said. It just said that she was put in because she wasn't doing what was expected of her. So that could have contributed to the increase in population. I don't know if that was this or not.
Mm-hmm.
But
it could. It's a good chance that it's something along those lines where, whatever reason, somebody's getting diagnosed with something that 10 years ago they weren't getting diagnosed with.
yes.
You know.
So yeah, okay. So it's now 1937. The patient population is up to 187. The employee total count is only now they're not in a deficit anymore, but it's only one more than they had in 1915. So the population has gone up an additional 87 people
And they add it one
and
person.
one employee.
And
So they've almost doubled the patient population, but only added one more person on staff.
And you said, did you say there was 3 originally? So like they would be up to 4 employees now? Is that what?
Yeah. I mean, it's there's a couple people who work in the building and a couple people who work on the farm, but yes, it's pretty low.
Wow. That is, these people are not being properly cared for. There's no possible way, right?
Right. Right. Another building expansion comes at this time. A 3-story addition to the main building comes in with living quarters for the female patient population, administrative offices, a reception room, a new dining hall, hospital rooms for men and women, facilities for the doctor and dentist on staff, a recreation room, an occupational therapy room, and storerooms. So they continued to add on. By the end of the year in 1942, the patient population is now up to 262, wow, which is 75 more patients than just in 1937.
And they went down 1 employee, right?
I don't know about where the employees are at, but the population continues to grow. This is where things start kind of going downhill, if they haven't already been. In a letter to the Asylum Board of Trustees in December 1943, Flanagan acknowledged that there were stories, rumors, and reports. There were also affidavits of certain former employees that were not favorable.
Well put.
Flanagan asked the county board to consider an investigation of the asylum that would bring out the truth and the conditions existing there. A meeting occurred a couple days later that included the 3-member Asylum Board of Trustees, the 3-member Asylum Inventory Committee, and the chairman of the Outagamie County Board. The participants of this meeting agreed to hire counsel to investigate charges by the employees and discharge employees and those who have filed affidavits with the district attorney. They put a former trustee, Al Bradford, as the attorney for the trustees. So at this point, there's people who had formerly worked at the asylum who had talked to the district attorney and said, things are not right. I don't know what they said. Mm-hmm. I have not seen those reports. But Flanagan is aware of those reports. He wants the county to do an official investigation. So credit to him. So instead of him just going to the county board and being like, these are former employees, they're cranky because they don't work here anymore, he says, bring on the investigation. There's nothing wrong here. and I'd rather you do an investigation so there's not these rumors going around about me. So credit to him for getting ahead of that.
Okay. And was there nothing going on there?
Oh.
I'm going to guess Flanagan is not correct on that, right?
Well, we see. The Wisconsin State Department of Public Welfare was notified of a petition asking for an investigation. It was recommended that the Asylum Board and the County District Attorney conduct a mutual investigation. They had learned of several complaints in addition to those filed with the District Attorney, so the state has been hearing rumors as well. They noted that if any of the complaints are true, remedial measures should be taken, and added that Mr. and Mrs. Flanagan should be cleared if anything is not wrong, but should be removed if anything is.
Good idea.
Put together a committee to kind of look into this. Al Bradford, representing the asylum trustees, says, first of all, the people here who are complaining, they went to the district attorney and they apparently complained to the state. He goes, but at no point in time did they ever file their complaints with the trustees of the asylum. And he goes, that's already suspicious to me. He goes, because these are the people who could have actually fixed something. So instead of saying something's wrong and complaining about it to district attorney, you could have told the trustees, and the trustees could have corrected things. So he's serving as an attorney, so he's has a side in this. But his argument is, your petition, whether it's true or not, you already went the wrong route. Like, you kind of made this worse, if it is bad, by not just asking the people who could fix it to fix it. He also asked that some of the charges be made more specific and then file those with the trustees, and that the specific charges made in the petition need to be at the level to warrant an investigation. Just vague things. And again, I didn't see the affidavit, so I don't know exactly what they're charging, but state representative from the Department of Public Welfare said that the department thought an independent investigation should be made with the county board. But, that was kind of up to the county. At the end of this hearing, the executive committee ordered that a thorough investigation be made of all complaints concerning the Outagamie County Asylum for the purpose of establishing the true facts as to present or past administrations and the existing internal conditions, with the view of making recommendations to the county board concerning the institution and its management, and also for clarifying rumors that may be circulating concerning it. So the county board, or at least the executive committee that's deciding if there's going to be something, has told the county board now, go through with the investigation. We don't have to wait for them to clarify their complaints. We don't need to do this. Just get on with it. Just get out the investigation. So they put that before the county board, and all 53 members of the county board voted unanimously for the investigation. Why there's 43 members of the county board, I don't know. That seems like a lot of members. But that's apparently how big the county board was. I don't know if it still is. I don't know how many people are on the county board. A 3-member special committee was appointed by the board to conduct the investigation. The members were Richard Van Wyck and George Wickman of Appleton and Kurt Rogers of Liberty. I'm not really sure where Liberty is.
I was just going to say Liberty.
Somewhere in Outagamie County, but sorry, Liberty, I don't know where you are. They were given $2,500 to do the investigation, not for their personal use, but for anything they might need for the investigation. One of the county supervisors, Sylvester Essler, said the rumors were creating bad publicity, and a report would either guide the board to solutions or they would prove the rumors wrong. So there was no bad outcome from having an investigation. Sylvester Essler, fantastic, interesting guy, by the way. His nickname was Cooney Essler. He ran the Nightingale Ballroom, which was between... I
feel like we mentioned that before.
It's probably come up. It was a place between Kaukauna and Green Bay that people would visit when they were on the trolley. They would hop off the trolley and go to the Nightingale Ballroom. It burnt down later, but it was a very popular place. Esther is going to come up again in a few episodes down the line. I already know what the next 3 episodes of this podcast are, so I can tell you he's going to come back. I know what the next 2 are because you gave them to me, and the third one I'm writing for another reason, so we're going to use it on the podcast as well. All right. The report of the committee was completed on April 27th, which they started it in February, so it took them a couple months. I don't know how long it takes to do an investigation and report, but a few months seems fair. They presented it to the Board of Supervisors on May 2nd. The committee interviewed 61 witnesses. It resulted in 924 pages of testimony.
Wow.
Which, again, I don't have. I wish I did. It also inspected the asylum and visited 5 other county asylums because it's not, they felt it's not fair to just look at conditions here and not look at conditions in other places because how do we know if this is good or bad? So they went to 5 other county asylums, which I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
The committee had the advice of the Wisconsin State Department of Public Welfare. In the report, the committee presented its findings on the 13 original complaints, as well as an additional 7 findings of its own. The report concluded with 12 recommendations for the purpose, future guidance, the affairs of the asylum. I wish I knew what the 13 original complaints were. The newspaper was not helpful in this regard. It just was very general in how it covered all these matters. I'm sure that all of this is on file somewhere. And in the event that somebody does convince me to write an asylum history, I will definitely find these reports and go through them. But at this point in time, apparently they're buried somewhere. I'm sure that they're in a county archive at some point, but I don't know.
Do you think you could get a hold of those testimony, the 61 people that they interviewed for this too? Could you get a hold of the transcripts of that?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm curious, who would hold that? Where would that go? Because would you have to contact the asylum to get that?
Well, see, that's the thing I'm not sure about, because that would be a county document, which would lead me to believe that it's in the Outagamie County Historical Society. But I'm not even sure about that, because I've talked to them, and I don't remember exactly how they explained it to me, but apparently they're not even the ones who hold the asylum records. They had just kind of borrowed them. So I'm not entirely clear on who would have them on the county level. But
I'm sure the County Historical Society could probably put you in the right place to get a hold of them.
They know where they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The committee found, in general, the original complaints were either in dispute, not everybody agreed with them, or they just couldn't find much truth to them at all. In some cases, they were explainable by extenuating circumstances. Sometimes they involved situations that were just typical of asylums in general, basically meaning, yeah, they're bad, but
This is
what happens. They said, we don't like it, but it seems to be standard operating procedure here. There were actions or decisions that were required by law, so yes, this is bad, but this was actually what we had to do by law. Mm-hmm. They were the result of a lack of employee discipline. So on this one, they're kind of blaming the former employees for the complaints of the former employees. And some employees were extremely dissatisfied with their pay and hours, and they filed these complaints because they were in a rebellious mood. I don't know. Again, without having seen all of the original complaints and the testimony and all that, I can't make a judgment on this. But it does seem oddly suspicious to me how quickly they're just like, yeah, none of this is
right.
I find it hard to believe that not a single complaint was like, yeah, you guys are onto something here. They're all like, no, this is all good.
But it is county board members doing it, and this makes the county look bad if it's all true.
Right.
So,
right.
How much are they padding that to make it not seem as bad as it is?
I completely agree. Yeah, it's really strange that when you are doing an investigation on your own institution.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No, because you're going to come up with the best explanation for things. Absolutely. However, there was a few things. The committee did say that the profit motive in the operation of the institution was overstressed by the management and the trustees. That, they said, was a problem, that they were seemed to be more focused on getting maximum money out of the farm and less focused on getting maximum care for the patients.
Okay. Which you can understand why that would happen, because if all the money's flowing in from the farm, that's where you're going to put your attention.
Yeah.
Not right or wrong.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, okay. It said the institution was probably understaffed because it had fewer employees than it did 10 years prior to that. The asylum had about 100 more patients than could be properly handled by the staff. 100 more patients seems like a lot more patients than...
Right, and you figure, like, how many more employees do you need to add to cover those 100 patients, you know? It's not going to be one employee to 100 patients. That's going to probably entail like 10 more employees, I would think.
They found that the employees of the asylum were generally lower paid and had longer hours than most of the jobs in the local community. So they're like, yeah, we can understand why there's employee dissatisfaction. The time spent by trustees in their supervision of the asylum was inadequate. Basically meaning, so there's always 3 guys who are on the county board who are assigned to the asylum. Basically, those 3 guys aren't spending enough time actually making sure that the asylum is running correctly. And lastly, the superintendent and his wife were old and not in the best of health and probably shouldn't be running something of this magnitude. They recommended put less stress on the profit motive and put more stress on the comfort and care of the patients, which, the asylum, sometimes I'm using the word inmates, and inmates is like an old term.
Mm-hmm.
Inmates, now when you say inmates, it sounds like a prison.
Right.
Inmates used to just be anybody who is part of an institution and they're not going anywhere. Here, like, that's the thing. Like, an asylum is basically a hospital. Like, it's supposed to be a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're focusing more on the farm and less on the care of them,
you're
the
not
people
really
living
in
there,
an asylum.
Yeah, like, your asylum is not doing its
You're
job.
a farm with slave labor, basically.
Right, right. I wasn't going to be that blunt about it, but that's how it read to me. Yeah. Absolutely, because other than the fact, they're getting fed, but yeah, the people working the farm are not getting paid for this.
They're not getting paid at all, or are they just getting grossly underpaid?
I don't think they get paid.
They don't get paid at all.
I could be wrong, but I don't think they get paid.
They're paid. The treatment they get from the facility.
I could be very wrong on that, but the way I understand it is them being employed as farm labor is seen as part of their treatment. Mm-hmm. Getting them active and doing things, which is probably true, but still, like, the county's making money off of that, so I don't know. They recommended replacing unsympathetic attendants and incompetent employees with sympathetic attendants and competent employees.
Well, that's a good little tidbit there.
Yeah.
They're not going to outline who's incompetent.
Yeah.
They're just saying, if you got an incompetent employee, get rid of them. Well, no kidding.
Yeah. It said they should hire 4 more attendants, hire another, or maybe the first, I don't know, female night watch, get an occupational therapy attendant, get another cook, reduce employee hours, increase employee pay, submit plans to the county board for an addition to better care for the patients. So
that's pretty vague right there.
Yeah.
An addition.
So, again, not having seen all this, I don't know. I got the impression that the county report really kind of just glossed over a lot of things. But to their credit, their recommendations are good.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Hire more employees, treat the patients better, pay your employees better. So they definitely made recommendations to improve the working conditions there and improve the patient's welfare. So I don't know exactly what came of that, but it seems like they made a case that things have to get better. When the report was submitted, both the asylum doctor and the asylum dentist submitted their resignations. They agreed to remain on call until successors were appointed. Then the superintendent and matron, Thomas Anna Flanagan, resigned. Their son, who was assisting them, also resigned.
So what was so offensive about this plan?
I don't know.
I mean, did they we're going to give you a pay raise? They're like, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. This is the only hint we have here. Thomas Flanagan submitted a letter saying, "We have read the report of the investigating committee and feel that it has cleared us of the serious charges made against us. Therefore, we believe the time has come to retire and respectfully request that you accept our resignations." So Flanagan's basically saying, now's the time for me to step down because I'm coming out the best at this moment. Why the two doctors stepped down, I don't know.
Maybe they just decided to get out because Flanagan was getting out. That's not an uncommon thing. Like if your manager leaves, you just I'm not dealing with a different manager, so I'm just out.
Yeah.
That I could see.
The county board wrote that they accepted the resignation of Flanagan, although they didn't want to. They specifically put on record that they regrettably accepted his resignation. They didn't want him to resign. And then following his resignation, 2 of the 3 trustees of the asylum resigned.
So now everybody's leaving.
Everybody's just out. After all this, a group called the Outagamie Citizens Economy Council comes in and they reviewed the numbers that were that had come out during this report. And they have the exact opposite interpretation of all this. They're like, profit motive, good. They're like, in the most recent year, you turned a profit of $19,000. Hooray. Your cost per inmate per week had dropped from $4.80 down to $3.61, saving the county. Yay. And they're like, specifically, this is great because this is 1940s. And they're like, we're in the middle of a world war. We got to cut costs wherever possible. I get where they're coming from. And absolutely, everybody wants costs to go down, their taxes to be lowered. But this seems like really poor timing for them to release this after this big report just came out saying the patients are being overworked, mistreated, all this and that. So, yeah, the county saved money, but we just explained why they saved money.
Yeah, and it's not good for good reasons.
Yeah. June 7th, 1944, the Asylum Board of Trustees named the new superintendent to replace the Flanagans, who was Ralph Vogt. And on July 1st, 1944, Vogt got the keys to the asylum. Thomas Flanagan would die a few years later in 1949 at age 71. For the few years between his retirement in 44 and his death in 1949, he served as the director of the Appleton State Bank. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So fun.
So that's it. So do we have any idea how long when this farm goes away? Did you?
I don't know.
Because it sounds like at least until this guy took over, it was at least still operational. Unless
it's still going after that.
Yeah.
I don't know when they stopped having a farm.
Because that would be just interesting to know, like what stemmed them to get rid of that. Because that seems like it's a pretty crucial thing in what they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right or wrong, but it's kind of, it'd be interesting. I'm assuming that it was just people said that it wasn't right for these patients to be working on a farm anymore.
I don't know. I focused just on the Flanagan years, so I couldn't tell you when the farm closed down. That'd probably be easy to find, but I don't know that answer offhand. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And it's gone through a few different things. Like, as we mentioned in the last episode, when it opened, it was the Outagamie County Asylum for the Chronically Insane. That was what it was called when it was first opened. It was still the asylum up through Flanagan's years, but it goes through a few different names. County Hospital of Mental Health. I don't remember the exact titles, but it goes through a few variations of kind of like cleaning up so it doesn't sound as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because asylum, I mean, even originally, it's not like today that word is tainted. That word was tainted from the beginning. you hear asylum and it's like, okay, those people are nuts.
Yeah.
And now, we changed it. So now we say, it's the hospital for mental health. And then it's like, some of those people are nuts. But most of them are in there, because they need a little extra care.
Right.
There's only a handful that are really completely incurable.
And I mean, listening to this story, I don't feel like this Flanagan by any means was a bad apple or anything like that.
I don't think so.
It seems like the history of it, like, I'm going to say that in the era where they did this review and the results came back, I feel like most asylums of this era probably would have gotten a report that was very similar to what this one got. Like I said, I'd
love to see the actual report, and sooner or later I probably will see the actual report. But it'd be curious to see what they came out with, because they'd said, is this bad? Yes, but it's comparable to other places. Is this bad? Yes, but this is the law. And I'm curious what those things are.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that some of those come down to patient treatment, because we know, historically, patient treatment in asylums is not good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much of that is not good because today we know better, or how much of that is not good because they were being run improperly. Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about the history of mental health treatment to know those answers, but we know some of the things they used to do to people in asylums that they would never do now.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's some of what came out in the report was like, yeah, we're doing those things. But everybody's doing those things.
I do feel, Gavin, like this book has to be written. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like there's way too much we don't know. Because we don't even know, at this point, we don't really know what any of these, 13 complaints they submitted. We don't even know what those are. I'd love to know how, awful they were.
Yeah.
Or if you read them and you're
I would too, because I have a strong suspicion that even though the newspaper was not good about reporting them, I think there's some real juicy stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. And I think it would just... it could change your perspective greatly on what you think of the asylum just by knowing what people said was happening there.
Could be.
Because we have really no idea right now.
Yeah, right now I have no idea. Like I said, I have suspicions because I'm pretty sure I said this last episode, but either way, it's worth repeating. On the grounds of Winnebago County, there is a museum called the Julianne Farrow. I don't know what it's called. Julianne Farrow Museum, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that museum I have the greatest respect for, because it's a museum that's the history of the asylum in Oshkosh. and they do not sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
They just do not. So you'll go in there and they'll show you the tools they used and the problems they had, and they don't try to say like, well, this is the best we could do. Like, they're very clear that these were methods that were very primitive and probably didn't need to be used as late as they were used.
Wow, that's so scary, man. All right, so you got anything else for this one, or should we wrap her up?
That's pretty much all I got. After this point, the Asylum, like I said, they stopped calling it the Asylum, and at least the way it's presented, it starts becoming more modern. So it's less interesting for the kind of topics that we cover, I think. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff here, and I think there's still a lot that we don't know, the community doesn't know, and it's worth looking into more. And anybody who missed the museum exhibit in Appleton when it came, could be 10 years ago now. My concept of time is terrible. But whenever it came through, it was amazing. Like, you really missed out on something, because holy crap, having things written from the perspective of some of the people who live there, oof. Like,
do you know, like, is this something that has the potential to come back?
It could.
Okay, so like,
I'm sure they have it in storage somewhere.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So, and then and I also want to say that I'm very interested to go check out this Outagamie museum too.
The Oshkosh one,
or the Oshkosh one?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, check it out. It's right on the grounds there, and I don't think it's well publicized, but it's there. There's the people there are very knowledgeable. Yeah.
Do you want to give everybody a kind of a sneak peek into the next episode, or you want to?
Sure.
What's the? I don't even know. I know I gave. First of all, I gave Gavin 2 episodes.
You did.
I only remember one of them, so I'm not even sure what the other one was.
Well, so the next one, which is already written, I'm actually like, as I was saying before we started recording today, like some of these I put together. I start right away, but they kind of come together last minute. This one's already ready. We're going to go to Nisita.
Okay.
Do you remember Nisita?
Yes, I remember Nisita, but I don't really remember. I know that somehow somebody associated with this story was like a family friend of my family or something along those lines.
You don't even remember.
This came from my mom, and I can't remember the details of it.
I thought you said it was something like your grandfather's sister-in-law or something. I don't remember.
No, okay, whatever I told you at the time.
I don't remember exactly how you explained it either. But.
Yeah. But, okay, so we're going to Nisita for what? What is...
Do you want to say?
No, because I don't remember.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to Nisita because there was a woman there who had visions of the Virgin Mary, and a large following sprung up around her that really kind of pissed off the Catholic Church.
Wow. I find really good episodes, man.
It is really interesting.
I'm really looking forward to this
You
one.
don't even remember it. Okay, but yeah, you specifically requested it, so we're going to do it.
So that'll be next week. Probably not murder, but mayhem.
No, there's no murder in it. But it's going to be interesting. I promise that.
So, and didn't you say this is something you had looked at before?
It's come up before, and I don't know in what context, but I know that when I went to look it up, my link was purple, so I had been there before.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll have that for you in 2 weeks, and we want to thank everybody for their continued support of this podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. Join us in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of Murder and Mayhem.